Welcome to another episode of Jewish Softball More Than a Game, where the stories on the diamond go deeper than the box scores. I'm your host, Maddie Lewis, and it's a very special day as it's Arizona Richie's debut as my co-host. Today's guest brings a global journey and a deep love for the game to the mic. Raised in Berkeley, California, fellow Bay Area native, Robyn picked up a softball at just 6 years old and never looked back. She went on to shine at UC San Diego, where she racked up accolades including CCAA Freshman of the Year, 3 first-team All-CCAA honors, and a spot on the All-Big West second team in her senior season. But her story doesn't stop there. After graduating in 2021, Robyn made Aliyah and took her game international, joining the Israeli national softball team and helping lead them to their first ever bronze medal game appearance in Udine, Italy. Now based in Kansas City, she's still competing for Team Israel each summer while making an impact behind the scenes as a research and development and player development analyst with the Kansas City Royals. From the field to the front office, this is Robyn's journey. How are we doing today, Robyn?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
Awesome.
Thanks for being here today, Robyn.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm actually going to kick us off. My first question for you, Robyn, is a fun one, kind of a two-parter. So, part one, tell me what your experience was like playing at UCSD. And then part two, to expand on, what's a core memory you have during your time playing with Maddie?
Ooh, good question. My time was incredible. I was actually just talking with my coworker yesterday about how I would not have changed my college experience for everything or for anything, especially with how big the portal is. Like, I had the time of my life and I wouldn't have entered the portal if the portal was as big as it is now. So very, very grateful for my experience. Also kind of lucked out in a way that there was just a lot of opportunity for playing time my freshman year, and I was able to prove myself very early on and didn't have to like wait for spots to open up just because a few girls left the team very early in my college career. So definitely grateful for that experience. But yeah, the entire time it was an amazing experience. Awesome to be able to go to school so close to the beach, while also getting an incredible education. And I mean, the team was awesome, the culture was awesome. So yeah, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. My core memory with playing with Maddie, I think it was her senior year, my sophomore year. We ended up going to the national championship in Denver, Colorado. And on the road to getting there, during regionals, we had to beat one of our like big rivals in college, Chico State. We had to beat them twice on Sunday because we had lost to them earlier in regionals. And we ended up beating them twice and had like the craziest celebration ever. It was awesome. But I think my core memory of that celebration is a picture that was taken during that celebration where everybody's kind of celebrating on the mound. We kind of threw our gloves up in the air and we're celebrating on the mound. And Maddie's in the foreground just like running in the opposite direction because she's so excited.
Where are you going?
I think she like ran a circle around us and then came in.
Yeah,
But
so like I
yeah,
was
it was
coming from
awesome.
third base, and at the end of every practice, our coach we would practice celebrating as if we would when we got there,
Like
it's
manifesting.
yeah, exactly. Like we know what to do when it happened. And so I'm coming from third. The last out of the play was at first base. I was like sprinting towards home, but everyone was like huddling around the pitcher's mound. So there's just like photos of me that are like per, like millisecond where I'm like just totally in the opposite direction.
I am so glad that you had such a good experience there. What do you feel like made the culture so good? Because I think that's a huge topic of conversation in our lives, trying to like develop Team Israel and all that stuff. So,
I think there was a foundation built by the coaching staff that was kind of just like passed down through all of the different like years of girls in the classes. I think that like my freshman year, the seniors were like very bought into the culture and did a really good job of passing that on. And then as with the next year and the next year and the next year, and I think that everybody on the team took it really seriously to continue to pass that on. And so I think there was just like a sense of professionalism and respect that we all understood and valued. And yeah, like I said, just like kept it going throughout, whether it was a practice or a team bonding event or a game. I think there was just like a sense that we were all there, like kind of doing business and we knew what we were doing and we knew what we were there for. That was, yeah, definitely not an easy thing to build. So definitely respect our coaches for being able to do that.
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think we realize now, especially like since we've graduated, one, how hard it is to build something like that. And then two, like, going to coach the international challenge this summer and, being in different environments where we can kind of take that culture and try to like form it into what we're doing at Team Israel. We realize that how hard it is, but also like there's moments where like I look at Rob and I'm like, man, this kind of reminds me of UCSD and like we're both kind of on the same page. And other colleges also have, similar things like that as well. But there's definitely moments where I'm like, this is exactly from, our time in college. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I think that that's also why it's so fun playing for Coach Palmer because she also went to UCSD and played under the same coach as us. And so she like has taken so much of what she learned in college and what we learned in college. And so it just like gives us a sense of like familiarity and comfort while also she definitely pushes us all the time to be better and have fun and just like all the good parts of softball,
Yeah, I feel
especially at the
like
international level. And we're still playing 4 years after graduating.
yeah, you guys have like it's a really special thing, I feel like, and very unique that you guys all have that and woof. Like all of you to fall back on that comfort together is really cool. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us imagined like there'd be four Tritons part of
connection here.
Team Israel in, different parts of the world. But yeah, it's definitely full circle and just a lot of fun to have those experiences with them, knowing that we come from like same background of, how we were kind of formed into players and people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob, following up on your time at UCSD, first of all, for people that don't know, she probably threw every single inning her freshman and sophomore year, it felt like, was one of our workhorses and still is on Team Israel. But what you kind of touched on already, but what was it like coming in your freshman year and seeing so much success and then, continuing to be that dominant across all your years? Like, I feel like you didn't really have any down years, and that's really hard to do to have like four really strong years. So, what was that like, and how did you stay so consistent?
Yeah, I think my freshman year, and I'm sure Maddie, you feel the same way just because you had a successful freshman year also. Like freshman year in a way, innocence is kind of bliss that you don't really know what you're walking into. And I'm like all my life, I feel like whenever I was in like big game, I would kind of rise to the occasion. And so I felt comfortable and confident going into my freshman year, knowing that I was going to have to pitch a lot. And in a way, like knowing that I was kind of one of the only pitchers just gave me more ease to like know my role and just do my job every day. But then after my freshman year, it was definitely different because everybody knew who I was, but we also didn't like, I don't know, we didn't like game plan a ton for our opponents. It was kind of just go out there and do your thing, which looking back on it, like maybe it could have been better to game plan and be more prepared for whoever we were facing and whatever big hitters we were facing. But it was also in a way like good that we didn't because I again just went out there and did my thing and like until they beat me at whatever I was getting them out with, I'm gonna keep on throwing the same thing. And so luckily I was still able to get them out in the same ways and definitely continued to develop things after my freshman year and into my sophomore and junior year. But I think just like having the confidence on the mound of what I knew I could do and what I had done the years before definitely helped just have a little bit of a leg up confidence-wise and mentally against the other teams.
I think that's super interesting. So you were saying how you kind of just went out there and played, which now I feel like there's so much more of an emphasis on like scouting and all the resources we have to scout other teams. But for you specifically, I think that's interesting that you like that so much because now your career is in analysis. So can you talk about how maybe as a player, you maybe didn't want to think about all those things, but like how you got to your career and kind of like the intersection of that.
Yeah, I think it was easier in the moment to not think about how we didn't really game plan and just kind of go with the flow. And it's definitely easier looking back on it with one, like all the resources that the Royals have that we provide to coaches and players is just far more than any college program currently has or had, especially when we were playing in college. And so it's easy to say that I would like to have all of the resources that we have right now for me to game plan, but and even with how like analytically minded I am, I still don't know that I would like love all of the information. I definitely found myself after games looking at like the box scores and my season stats and like, uh-oh, my ERA dropped zero point 0.1 or whatever, like, oh shoot, I have to get better, which probably wasn't for the best. But yeah, I don't know. I think like game planning is such a art. There's no like right way to do it. And I think like at the end of the day, the best way to game plan is for pitchers to throw to their strengths. And so by not game planning, that's kind of what you do by default. And so, yes, it may have helped to game plan in college, but I don't think that it really hurt all that much.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Maddie, I feel like you and I have talked a lot about like blast and stuff, like using it to how it feels good for you and like that delicate balance of like overthinking versus like still playing free. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, on that point, like I feel like in college we're also just young and kind of stupid almost. Like we just, we have everything like structured and laid out for us. And now, like as we've gotten older, one, you're always learning more about this game, but I feel like in college especially, it's like you're just kind of out there and enjoying it and having fun. Whereas now we know that there's so much, and the game's evolving too, but like we know that there's like all this other stuff that goes into it. And you know that as a college player too, but like, I can say for myself that like I've become more aware about like certain things about my swing or just like more data and more, tech that is kind of developing. So that kind of leads into my next question. But how did you kind of get into the field you are now, and what does your day-to-day look like?
So after I played with Team Israel my first season in the summer of 2021, I ended up staying in Europe for most of the rest of the summer and played with a team in Prague, which was an incredible experience. And while I was there, I had a lot of free time because most of the other girls on the team had full-time jobs outside of the team. And so I just had a lot of free time. And so that was also right after COVID, and I had kind of done some reflecting on what I wanted to do with my career because until COVID hit, honestly, I really didn't know what I wanted to do exactly. And so during COVID and then that summer, like the summer after, I did a lot more research and talked to people who I knew and I don't want to say took advantage of, but definitely used the connections that I have to help learn about different careers within sports and within MLB in particular, just because I knew softball and sports had been part of my life forever, and so I wanted to continue doing something within sports after I graduated. And so I landed on baseball analytics. It seemed like a good way to balance my love and passion for softball with my math, numbers, analytically minded brain. But at the same time, I didn't have data analytics or math or any really quantitative degree. I had studied international business. So while I was in Prague, I took some online classes to get myself kind of more prepared and understanding of the skill sets that were needed for a job in baseball analytics. And then as soon as I got back from Prague at the end of September, I started working for the UCSD baseball team, or really just volunteering. I was just helping with some day-to-day data related things, which was perfect experience for my role now. It was kind of just like a very basic version of what I'm doing now, which is I basically take all of the data that we have access to for all of our minor league players and help with explaining that data to the coaches. So we have daily reports that go to coaches based on games from the day before. And then we used those reports and we used our internal system to basically help explain to coaches and help basically support the development process for all of our minor league players. So that comes in a lot of different forms and a lot of communication with different people. But yeah, basically my day to day is making sure that all of our data is clean and all of the resources that we provide to coaches are accurate, and then communicating that information wherever is necessary to help with the development of our minor league players.
That's super cool. I actually didn't know your process, that process in Prague, or yeah, in Prague, that you took classes and stuff. I think that's really cool because I think nowadays people are kind of held back by like the degree that they got in college and sometimes don't think that they're qualified for something that they're interested in. So I like that story, Rob.
Thanks. Yeah, and honestly, like I think I give all credit to my mom for like pushing me to get into that because I think like girls tend to be like that more often than guys do, like imposter syndrome and not feeling like they belong. And so, honestly, since like middle school or high school, my mom kind of knew that I was going to end up doing some sort of like baseball analytics or sports analytics. But she would kind of push me to do it, but I wouldn't want to do it and, daughters and moms in high school. But yeah, it ended up being an awesome path. I don't think I really enjoyed my degree. I think it gave me a good like base understanding of a lot of different things. I minored in psychology, which I loved, and I still enjoy learning about things related to psychology. And so I don't regret studying international business. And I think that my like unique path makes me stand out a little bit, just having a different way of thinking than some other people.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think as you mentioned, like a lot of us struggle with imposter syndrome and being females in male dominated sports, obviously, right? Like baseball. What advice would you give to a young female athlete, or not even an athlete, but like, your younger self or any young girl out there that wants to work in the MLB one day? Yeah, to follow in your footsteps and what that path might look like.
Yeah, I get this question a lot, and it might sound like kind of silly saying this, but I think that the biggest thing that I've taken away from now this is my fourth year with the Royals, all of my time there, has been people don't really care if I'm a girl. Like they will value what I'm saying if it's information that they find that will help them be better at their job. And like yes, there is a little bit of extra work that I need to do to like get around the feeling that I'm the only girl in a room. But MLB as a whole has gotten a lot better. The Royals have done a great job at getting diverse people into front offices. So our department is like half women, which is awesome. I'm not sure if every team can say the same, but it's awesome that our VP, assistant GM, who runs our department is like so open to that when I'm sure many other people aren't. So it's been a very like welcoming environment with the Royals. But yeah, at the end of the day, as long as the information that we provide is valuable, I don't think it really matters that much what your gender is.
So your advice is kind of like just do a good job and you'll get to where you need to go, kind
Yeah,
of
exactly.
like that.
Think it's also just be like confident in the work that you're putting in. Like people can tell when, you have confidence in whatever you're trying to provide to them. And if they can, feel that through the way that you're presenting it or whatever it might be, like that goes a long way too.
Yeah, 100%. And like me saying this is not saying that it was easy from day one for me to do exactly what I'm talking about right now. And it's honestly still not easy. Like it takes effort to like honestly convince myself that I'm confident in whatever I'm talking about. Or yeah, convince myself that I should be saying what I'm saying because like of course somebody who sticks out in a room is going to have some sort of imposter syndrome. So it's not easy to get around that, but I think just like reminding myself that it's generally fine is definitely helpful.
Yeah, I really agree with you guys. The imposter syndrome thing, I think, is the biggest struggle for women in careers. Did you guys see that post from Alona Mar? And it was like about, oh, a guy will
Mm.
like play a year of high school basketball and think he can like coach his kids' team or something, and then a woman will be like, oh, I never made it to the WNBA. I can't coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I think that's like across the board a huge thing right now.
Yeah. Well, even like I was talking to my sister about this. She was like, I saw something that you can ask like basically any guy out there if they think they could be a professional athlete if they just like worked hard and like they will say yes,
Yeah.
which
I've
is crazy.
I've also heard that with, oh, I can fly a plane. I can, I'll figure it out. They all think they can fly a plane. But okay, I have another question for you, backtracking a little bit, but it kind of weaves into everything. What's the most valuable lesson you think you learned in college/college softball that you've taken to your career and international softball?
I think this goes back to what I was saying about our college culture. I think that like respect has been a big thing that was just like instilled in us. And that's not just like speaking to people with respect, but that's like respecting people's time. And so I think like that's probably the biggest thing that I've taken away in just my life in general. That, yeah, you might think that being 5 minutes late is not a big deal, but really you're probably wasting somebody else's 5 minutes by being late. And that's just a sign of respect and respecting their time. So I think like just little things like being on time and yes, same thing, like speaking to people with respect and just generally like thinking of other people when you're going about your life is something that we talked a lot about and like just experienced a lot of in college that I really value and have taken forward.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of that as well. And I think shout out Coach G for, you know, just throwing that out there every single day so that we really understood what was important in this world, right? Like, softball, we talk about all the time is like such a microcosm of life. And so, especially being a student athlete, like I feel like you take away so many life lessons with you. And I think UCSC was really big on, and I'm sure UVA was the same, making sure you walk out of there as like a better person than when you got there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll always remember like at the beginning of most practices in our like pre-practice huddle when we're going through what we're going to be doing that day, it would start with like, okay, who did a random act of kindness today? And you just go around the circle and like, oh, I held a door for this person
That's really
today, or
nice.
like I bought like a person behind me coffee today, or like little things like that that now whenever something small like that comes up, that's exactly what I think of. And yeah, it's just like little sweet things here and there that make people's day that don't really take much out of your own day.
Yeah, I think in general, it's the little things that add up to such a big thing, like the 5 minutes being on time, those tiny, tiny things really, really add up. And for us, like, I think a common one when we're traveling is like, okay, yeah, let's all be 5 minutes early to the lobby when we have to go somewhere. So it's like those tiny things that really like do make a difference, I think.
Definitely.
So I want to go back to your time in Prague, since we are gearing up for another European Championship this summer in that same place where I'm sure you played at and are familiar with. But before we get more into that, what inspired your decision to make Aliyah and represent Israel? And then kind of walk me through like your first year, that first ever bronze medal game and what that was like. I wasn't on the team yet, but I know you and Z have a lot of great memories from that year. And I think kind of something that I recognized and wanted to be part of after you guys made that happen.
So my senior year of college in February, I one random morning got a text from Coach G saying, I have exciting news for you. Don't forget to let me tell you at practice today. And I was just like, I had no idea what she was going to say. And so go to practice that day. And she was like, do you know Nikki Palmer, who I'd met a couple times at alumni games before? So I said yes, and she said, well, Nikki's the head coach of the Israel national softball team, and she needs a pitcher who's Jewish to be on the team. Do you want to do that? So I talked with Coach Palmer that evening. She set me up to talk with Ami, our director, and basically from there it was like, okay, you're on the team. And so it was like, I think early March was when I was like officially on the team. I started doing all the paperwork, and then in June of that year, we all went to Israel to make Aliyah. So there was a group of 6 of us or 7 of us, including Arizona, who were all going out there to get our citizenships at the same time. And I think that was honestly like the best experience ever, maybe. It was so fun to first, I had never met any of these girls in my life before I flew halfway across the world to be with them for who knows how long.
Because you didn't come to Vegas, did you?
No.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I just met these awesome girls at this kind of weird hostel that we were staying at, and it was still during COVID, and
Abraham.
we had to get our blood drawn to do COVID tests, and they just plopped our arm down on a suitcase in the middle of this hostel. It was just a crazy experience, but so awesome, and wouldn't trade it for the world. And we were all in it together and didn't really ever know what was going on, but
It
just
was
rolled
like
with the punches.
organized chaos that
Exactly.
turned out to be like addicting, and here we are 5 years
Yeah,
later.
we would have the day to just wander around in Israel wherever we were staying. We would go every morning, we would go on runs to the beach and then get breakfast on the way back. and then just like moments notice, drop everything. You have to go to the office to get your citizenships. And then we'd sit there for 4 hours, nothing would happen, and then we would go back to the hostel and go to sleep. Like it was just, crazy stuff. But like, yeah, like I said, I think that was like the ground thing that like just brought us all together so closely that we all experienced this like crazy couple weeks together. But in the end, the day before we left for our tournament where we needed our citizenships, we all ended up making Aliyah successfully, getting our passports, and then flying to Italy that night for our tournament. So then, yeah, it was honestly an ex incredible experience just being there and being with everyone. I like my whole life, like I've always been Jewish, but I wasn't raised super Jewish. My dad isn't Jewish, but it was like it's just brought me so much closer to Judaism as a whole. And then fast forward 2 years or a year and a half when I moved to Kansas City, like the Jewish community here is how I made many of my friends, which is like really awesome. That had I not been part of Team Israel, I probably wouldn't have been like comfortable enough with myself and my Jewish self, I guess, to like reach out in that community to find friends. So that's been awesome. So now, flashback a year and a half.
I just say that I really needed that like that story of what we did because I think I kind of like blacked it out a little bit. Like I don't remember so much of it. So thank you for that story. That was
Yes,
nice.
of course. One last part I'll add. The place where the office was, where we ended up getting all of our passports, was in this mall that had an IKEA in it. And we were just wandering around in IKEA the morning that we ended up getting our passports. And we like were super tired, so we like fell asleep on some of the showroom couches and got yelled at and kicked out. It was a whole
And we're
thing,
like
but it was
delirious
so
at this
fun.
point. So
Yeah, yeah.
those
It
are
was
the good
awesome.
moments.
But yes, so the bronze medal game. So this was our first ever bronze medal game, like you said. It was also the first time that many of us had played in the European Championships, and it was the first time that Coach Palmer had coached in the European Championships. So we kind of were just going into it blind, didn't really know like the strategy of how to go about the format of the tournament, because the format of it is very different than any tournament that any of us have ever really played in. And honestly, going into year five, still don't totally understand it. And so we just like went in and played our best in every game. And in our, I think it was second game, we played the Czech national team, who is very well known as like one of the best teams in Europe. And we had me pitch because we were like, we're going to try and beat this team. And I pitched and I think I threw fine. I don't think it was like anything extraordinary. And then Ava Justman, who was one of our other pitchers, came in and we ended up winning the game. And it was like crazy the first time Team Israel had ever beaten Team Czech. And then we ended up playing them a second time in the tournament. And at that point, that game was like absolutely necessary to win. And so I pitched again. And then at that game, I threw a little bit better. And I like found some like of their weaknesses as a team as a whole. And then fast forward, we play a couple more games. We win some like very important games. We beat Spain. I think that was like the final game that we needed to win. And then we go and we play Czech a third time in the bronze medal game. And I pitched a third time. And so it was just like by the third time, they knew me, I knew them, but somehow like still was able to like kind of hold them a little bit. We ended up losing the game. I think their pitcher threw like a no-hitter in the championship or in the bronze medal game because she's a
Their
very,
picture's that super tall
yeah,
chick.
she's like one of the best pitchers in the world. Shoot.
That one. She crow
But
hops and like throws gas.
yeah, but still like amazing experience. So cool to make Israel softball history in like the first ever tournament that most of us had played in. And just like, I don't know, I think going from our crazy experience in Israel to that tournament and doing so well was like what kept a lot of us around and like really got us all really bought into the program. So I don't know. I think it was just like such a fun experience, a whirlwind for sure. I think we were all exhausted by the end of it, but yeah, I wouldn't have traded that for the world.
I love it. Obviously, you've been part of Israel softball for the last 4 or 5 years, and you've seen it grow quite a bit since, you first got started. What is like one of your, because it can be really hard to stay in it. Like, I think we all can experience or can attest to this, that it's just like, you know, not as easy to stay in softball shape and stay with it when we all have like full-time jobs and are trying to balance life and that sort of thing. But, as you're seeing this organization grow and with all the opportunities that are like possible in the next couple of years with the LA Olympics and that sort of thing. How do you stay motivated and, what keeps you going to keep growing this thing and also just like try to be at your best against some of the best competition in the world?
I think the biggest thing is seeing all of the younger girls in the organization that have grown from when they first joined the organization, like in middle school or high school, to like where they are now and like potentially making the national team.
Even like Eliana and like
Yeah.
Tara, like
Yeah.
they were such babies
They
when
were babies and
yeah.
So I think it's just really cool to like see them grow and like look up to us in a way that just like keeps me going. Like I can't imagine looking in from the outside at like training camp. Or even like I'm not going to be at the first tournament this summer in Canada. And that's going to be weird, like watching from the outside. And so I think part of it is like a little bit of FOMO, but also every year when we go to play, it like reminds me why the grind of pitching into a nine pocket net for a year is so worth it to like get to like compete on a field with everybody and have so much fun and represent the country that we all love so much that I don't know, I think it's just like such an incredible experience that we've helped like cultivate and build from like basically nothing is really fun. And then I think I also, whenever I play, like remind myself of when we were in Israel 4 or 5 summers ago to make Aliyah. We were able to go to some of the softball fields that exist in Israel and just see how limited the resources are. And so I just remind myself that the end goal of this all is to build the sport back in Israel. And so if I can help in any way to like help the team get more successful and compete at a higher level on the international stage and therefore get more funding from the government to grow the game there, then all of it's worth it. And like me going to pitch a couple times a week is totally worth it. And so I think just like reminding myself of all of like the good things that can come out of it get me through the tougher times when I don't feel like going to go pitch.
what do you think the most important thing is in terms of developing the game in Israel?
I think part of it is how we have girls like born and raised in Israel that come and play with us every summer. I think that's like such a good experience for them to see what softball looks like from America and see what like we're trying to help build there. And hopefully have them take just like one or two of the things that we show them back and teach the younger girls there and help just like grow small things. And then at like the bigger picture is the finance part of it and just getting more money and an actual softball field built that's not used for anything else and enough softballs, enough buckets of balls and tees and nets and all of that stuff that is necessary to have a successful softball program in any country. I think those, yeah, those two things.
Yeah, I like what you said about the girls born and raised there. And I think how I view it too, which I like, is like it's a very symbiotic relationship. So like they can see kind of how we were taught softball and how it is in America and stuff. And I just feel super enriched, like when they play with us and they get to teach us more about Israel and what their lives are like, and because I think there can sometimes for us be an imposter syndrome with, having our citizenship, but we don't live there and we don't have the same experiences that they have. So I think it's to both sides, like the respectful and responsible thing to like learn from both sides too. So
And also is like seeing the joy that they play with, like when they make an out or they get a hit is like awesome.
yeah,
And I think also just reminds all of us of like, this is a game and this is supposed to be fun and
chill
we can't
out.
take it too seriously. Exactly. Like I think it's, yeah, just like you said, a symbiotic relationship for sure.
Yeah, and we're all still playing because it is fun, right? Like we've been there through travel ball, going to tournaments, got recruited, obviously got an education and played in college, but now it's like we're doing it because we love the sport and like everything that it's provided for us and continues to provide. But, to your point, I think that's exactly what, we're trying to do at Shalom Sluggers is just like continue to spread awareness and share stories about everyone that's involved with Israel baseball and Israel softball. And I think at some point we want to get some of the Israelis on here so that they can share their story because it goes both ways. Like the American Jews that play on the team as well as like the Israelis that are born there, like everyone's story and everyone's voice is just as important to get this thing, where we want it to go at some point down the road.
100%. Going off of that, Rob, in terms of kind of putting ourselves out there and kind of making a name for ourselves, what advice would you give Jewish people today, kind of in this climate that we are facing, kind of tough times all around? Yeah, just what advice would you give any Jewish person, not even an athlete, just like living in the world?
I would just say, like, be proud of who you are. We are such a, I think, strong knit community that if we ever need support of in any way, there are so many other people like us around that are there for that support. When I moved to Kansas City, I was not expecting there to be much of a Jewish community at all, and it's turned out to be awesome. And so, really, no matter where you are, there are people there to support you, and we have to just continue to be proud of our heritage and proud of where we've come from and know that we're like very much strong enough to get through whatever obstacles may come our way. But yeah, I think just be strong and be proud.
That's great. Thank you.
Well, Rob, Z, do you have any other questions?
No,
No.
no, I don't.
Yeah, I think we can wrap here. Thanks for being our second episode, Jewish softball more than a game. I think from my standpoint, it's been a lot of fun just like taking our college career together and continuing to play at the next level and just sharing so many memories and so many fun times like on the field of course, but just seeing so many different places in this world and getting to do it alongside you has been awesome. So I'm glad we get to do that and I can't wait for this summer and thanks for, inspiring all of us to keep going.
Of course. Feel
And
the
see you in
exact same
prom.
way, Mad.